every single business on the planet eventually will cease to exist. Okay. So it is in the nature of capitalism that we will see creative destruction. And we've seen that in the past. So how many companies are 200 years old? How many companies are 500 years old? How many of the companies around today will be around 100 years from now, or 200 years from now, or 50 years from now, 20 years from now? So the basic tenet of capitalism is that almost everything is going to be competed away. Once in a while, in an unpredictable manner for the most part, we end up with some moats. Like we end up with a moat around Coca-Cola, or we end up with a moat around Visa or MasterCard, or we end up with some moats around Louis Vuitton and so on. The people who founded these businesses could not see these moats. Okay. They did not start these businesses saying, I'm going to build the biggest soft drinks company in the world. I'm going to control payments in the world. You go and study the history of these businesses, they're all accidental set of circumstances that leads. If you look at something like Amex today and the trajectory it's been through, it'd be very unpredictable that this is where it would be. And so basically, I think the reason all of this is difficult. So on one hand, we have this situation where almost everything in capitalism is going to disappear. Most businesses will disappear. On the other hand, you have CEOs and managers who have to have a trait if they're going to lead. The common trait they have is they're optimists. If they weren't optimists, they couldn't be leaders. So they have to be seeing a half full glass as overflowing. If they didn't see the half full glass as overflowing, how are they going to lead their troops and people? And so I think it is par for the course that a CEO, typical CEO, may not have a good view on what his or her business looks like 10 or 20 years from now. Because, they're optimists. They think all their endeavors are going to work. They don't see the disruptive innovations coming from left field, all these different things going on. They don't see that. There's a parking lot near LAX, which I used to like a lot when I used to travel in and out of LAX, called Wally Park. And every time I parked at Wally Park, I really liked everything about it. So Wally Park had these kind of these hanging leather separators for each parking spot. So your car could never get dinged by another car. There was this separate. And they put that in the whole parking lot. So I said, wow, this is really nice. I come to Wally Park, and then they ran their shuttles very frequently and all of these things. Okay. And I used to always think, I should go tell the owner of Wally Park that if he ever decides to sell the business or something, give me a call, Berkshire style, write him a letter or something. I just love the business. And it was very popular relative to the other parking spaces and other parking operators. And no one else had copied that leather thing, even though they could all see it. Then suddenly Uber comes along, okay? And I'm not driving to the airport, okay? And suddenly I look at Wally Park and they got too many spaces. That business suddenly changed. So the thing is that I was looking at that business. I love that business. I couldn't see anything that would take away parking from being a great business for 50 years around LA. But even that business got disrupted. So I think that this creative destruction of capitalism is really a powerful force. It's not linear. It comes from left field. It comes suddenly. You see something coming up, and Clay Christensen wrote about it with the Innovator's Dilemma and all of that. So I don't blame the managers always so much. I think the managers, maybe they have too much on their plate. They're trying to run the ship. They're trying to motivate their troops. They're trying to meet payroll, all these things. And for them to have a view of what happens 20 years from now, that's really hard. And even when in Berkshire Hathaway, so many of the businesses they bought have disappeared. So many of the businesses they bought were mistakes to buy. Probably half the businesses they bought are either mistakes or have disappeared. And so the forces are very powerful. And when we look at, I haven't followed Liberty and Malone in a long time. He's a smart guy. He always takes care of himself. I always found some of the ways things happened, not quite Buffett-esque in the sense that Buffett doesn't want to play gin and rummy with his shareholders, but Malone doesn't seem to have too many issues with that. And so anyway, I don't have much of a view on what's been going on there. But I would just say that when I look at this whole area of the cannibals and all of that, I can't rely on the manager. What I have to really look at is I have to look at businesses which look like Union Pacific Railroad. I think 20 years from now, Union Pacific is around. Now, we'll see if it becomes like Wally Park and something comes along, who knows? But I think there's a good chance those rights of ways and all of that stuff that it's around. But there's very few businesses like that. And especially when you go long enough time horizon, and especially if you're looking at cannibals, we need to go really long time horizon to get 100x, 300x. The good news is that if you had a portfolio of 10, you could have 7 that don't work and will still be a great return. So some of this can be taken care of with bet sizing and so on.